Yeah, so the topic is artificial intelligence and the capital markets. I do want to make it clear at the beginning that I had a partner in putting this together. That's GPT-4 from OpenAI. I asked it to help me put together an outline for the presentation, and it did. Another product of OpenAI is DALL-E 3, which is an image generation AI. And most of the illustrations here come from DALL-E 3, although there are some videos here that don't, of course, and there is at least one chart that doesn't. Why did I do that? Well, because I use AI, and I wanted to make the point that one reason I think it's going to become even more ubiquitous is that it sometimes is a really great help in getting started on something. You know, I had to really work on the outline once it was created. So it really is a joint effort, but GPT-4 was very helpful in getting started. So 2023, it really was the year of AI. AI burst upon the scene as if it just came, spontaneously, but that's not true. A lot of the market leaders today are AI driven. Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, they're all deeply involved in this technology. Is it a hype cycle? Well, there's a lot of hype. But there's been hype for artificial intelligence in the past, and that's been called AI winter, when what has been cooking in academic circles and in the research departments of corporations, they suddenly think it's ready for prime time, and it's not. Is this cycle real? Well, the market thinks it's real. I think it's real. But nobody can predict the future. This is a chart from our AI primer. I know you can't really read it completely, but basically what it says is that all of these different ETFs, the iShares Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Multi-Sector ETF, Global X Artificial Intelligence and Technology ETF, and on, they all outperform the S&P 500. So they're doing pretty well. But let's step back from today and say, where did this thing come from? And you probably know, but it's a phrase. Artificial intelligence is actually a word or a phrase rather than a technology. It was coined in 1956. There was a meeting of computer scientists and business leaders at Dartmouth College in the United States, and one of them coined this phrase, and they basically said, given enough money and a little bit of time, they could get a computer to simulate almost anything a human being could do. Well, they were ahead of their time. It's taken a lot longer. But today we are seeing AI simulate human thought and actions very effectively. They did not really talk about a topic that I'll touch on, which is, could artificial intelligence become sentient or self-aware or conscious of itself? They didn't really bother with that. That was really science fiction. Simulating human thought, human processes was really it. Everything really changed in November of 2022. ChatGPT was thrown out into the world by OpenAI. Now, OpenAI says they didn't know it was going to have this kind of impact. OpenAI, their whole point was, this was a controlled release. We wanted to see how people would use it. We would learn from that. We would improve. They were not ready for this. But I've worked in the software industry for a long time, and you may have heard the term killer app. What is a killer app? Well, back in the day, I bought an Apple II, and I couldn't really do much with it. And then we got the ability to put a spreadsheet up on Apple II, and suddenly you could do something that you had to do, but you could do it much more easily. The same thing with word processing. Word processing and spreadsheets and things like that made it worthwhile to spend money on the hardware because of the software. Well, chat's kind of like that. And, it's been brewing since 1956. People have been working on this, but it was this sudden appearance of something that was easy to use and essentially did not cost anything, and suddenly everybody was using it. What about the market size and the growth? Well, there are a lot of different estimates on that, but Microsoft has invested $10 billion in OpenAI. They married it to their search engine, Bing, and then rapidly there began an arms race. Google suddenly introduced Bard. Google had been working on AI for a long time. They just hadn't really put it out there. The same thing with Meta, the parent of Facebook. They released Llama. Elon Musk has been warning against the dangers of AI for many years. He was involved in starting OpenAI as a nonprofit to try to create AI that was beneficial and not harmful. He has now given up, and he now offers an AI called Grok. We'll see where it goes. AI's global market was estimated at $40 billion in 2022. Bloomberg has said generative AI alone, which is a form of AI, could reach 1.3 trillion in the next 10 years. Well, you can get a lot of estimates, but it seems to be the case that the market can be very large. And some of our old ideas about this kind of thing may not be current anymore. Again, AI is not an overnight sensation. There were ideas that preceded the Dartmouth conference. There were people working on really the predecessors to what we now know as AI. In 1966, a chatbot was created called ELIZA. ChatGPT is a chatbot. ELIZA could pretend to be a therapist, and you could talk to it as if it were a therapist, and it would then just answer everything you said with a question, which is what a lot of psychotherapists do even today. And over time, we've seen, as I said, AI winters. In 1997, IBM created a computer called Deep Blue, which beat a world chess champion. One of the characteristics of artificial intelligence up until now has been a human tendency to say, well, AI can do that, but it can't do this. And so when Deep Blue beat a world chess champion, people said, well, it couldn't beat a Go champion. Go is a much more complicated game than chess. And then, then an AI defeated the Go champion, and he said it was doing things he never would have thought of. IBM's Watson actually won against some of the best champions of Jeopardy, and on and on. The point is, with current AI, people are beginning to change, and instead of saying, well, it can do that, but only humans can do this, people are beginning to say AI might actually be able to do things we cannot do. There was a recent report that there was an AI that actually had come up with something totally new. The way ChatGPT works is, and this type of program is very good at synthesizing. It has access to the internet. It can take something you ask it to do and produce something that is serviceable, but, it's not really beyond human capacity. But reports are popping up that there may be AIs that are coming up with really unique items or ideas. Not all AI is the same. The type 1 here really is more a list of how AI may evolve. Right now, we're still in the domain of narrow AI. What does that mean? It means that even the very powerful systems we're seeing are not able to move easily from one domain to another. It's hard to really get your mind around this, but the human brain really is a general learning machine. I could, if I wanted to, I could learn how to write a symphony. I could learn how to repair a car. I could learn how to do many, many different things because the human brain is a general machine. AI is not quite there yet, but that's the holy grail, the artificial general intelligence AI, which would be like a person, like a human brain, where it could really kind of move across all domains of learning and master them. Now, it's really science fiction to think about super AI, but there are those who think once we get to general AI, we will have super AI, and this will be a system that really surpasses human intelligence in profound ways. And that's called the singularity. A singularity is something beyond which you cannot see what's going to happen next. It comes from astronomy and from black holes. Once you go inside a black hole, that's a singularity, and all the laws of physics cease to apply. You can also, it's not so much a type, I'm not sure this is really the way to say it, but another way of looking at AI is you can see it as a reactive machine. You can see it as having a theory of mind. A theory of mind is a test you can give to children to see how evolved their understanding of the world is. What it means is that at a certain level, you can imagine what other people are thinking and understand that it's different from you. And the whole idea of that is that over time, children get better and better at that. There have been some tests of the GPT series, and most recently, GPT-3, I think, was at the level of a 9-year-old in that ability. And this leads to the problem of self-awareness, which I'll have more to say about later. You may recall I mentioned the guys at Dartmouth in 1956 didn't say anything about self-aware machines, but it's being discussed now. How would we know if an AI actually had agency, let's say? And I'll come back to that later because it's a philosophical question, but it's also a business issue. Okay, generative AI, that is what we are looking at today that is blowing our minds. ChatGPT and all the GPTs are generative. And what it really means, again, is they can generate new information of a wide variety of it. And it really is the beginning and not the end of AI innovation. AI is going to evolve and get better and better, and this is only the start, but it has tremendous potential. For example, you can look at it with fear or you can look at it with anticipation. So there's a lot of concern about job loss, right? Well, if it can do what a human can do, why do we need that human? There have been some studies of executives who are laying people off because they think they can do the job with AI. I teach a course at Harvard Extension School on public relations, and I made the point that AI can write a press release. Is that a threat or an opportunity? Well, I think it's an opportunity because a press release is a very standard tool of PR, but it takes time to write one. Why not let the AI write it instead of a person? And I asked GPT-4, which is the next level beyond chat, to write a press release about the release of GPT-5. Well, it made it up, of course, but we read it and it was a pretty good press release, to be honest. So I think if AI can do things that humans can do, but they are not really truly creative things that humans could do, that could be a great benefit. One thing that this clip doesn't mention is diagnosis. AI systems have been used in a test mode to diagnose illness, and they've done a pretty good job. And I believe that this is another thing that they can do, that they would do it in concert with doctors. I would not, if I were a doctor and ask an AI to help me with diagnosis, it would be just the way I created this presentation. I wouldn't just start treating, this could be totally wrong. However, I might well use AI for a first try at a diagnosis, and then I would check it. But another profession that's burning out because of administrivia, or administrative trivia, if you will, is teachers. We are losing, in the United States, we're losing teachers every day, and part of it is really because of the pandemic, and the kids are way behind, and it's very, very difficult to be a teacher right now. However, part of it is they just have a lot of administrative work to do, and they're not doing what they got into teaching for, which is helping young people learn. Once again, maybe artificial intelligence can help. There's also something else here that is having an impact, and I'm beginning to see some articles about it, which is the rise of artificial intelligence companions. And I'll have more to say about that later, but there is a company called Replica, which will create a companion for you, and these companions are very, very real to people. I think they have something like 2 million users, and you can set up the relationship with the companion. It can be male, female, or non-binary. It can be a friend, a mentor, a spouse, a girlfriend or boyfriend, etc., etc. And people find them very real and enjoyable. And on the positive side, for many people, it reduces loneliness. On the negative side, of course, the more real an AI becomes, for some people, the less they will want to interact with human beings because it's going to be much more complicated and messy. However, I do believe that the AI companion industry is going to be a big part of this industry. I think what will keep investment going is the fact that there are so many applications. Most gurus and observers think that there will continue to be investment in 2024 and beyond. And one of the reasons in my mind is that the applications are so broad and there will be many, many startups deserving of investment. We have to recognize there's a big difference between ChatGPT writing a high school essay for a student and asking it to predict the future demand for semiconductors. Right now, it's pretty good at writing essays, but it's not that great at predicting the future. And actually, some of the companies are putting guardrails around these systems so that they're really not allowed to be very speculative. One of the trends that I've seen, though, that's very interesting is that schools really reacted with great fear against chat being used by the students because it was a feeling the students weren't really doing any work. I was involved at Harvard with Harvard Extension School deciding what to do about using these tools. And increasingly what I see is a more open-minded approach, which is, well, the students need to know about this technology, so maybe we should let them use it and figure out maybe better ways of teaching. Maybe essays aren't the right way to do it anymore. If chat can write an essay that's better than a student can do it, maybe we should ask the students to do something different. So it's hard to tell, as I said, what the future brings. And anybody who's ever been involved with technology, you know that just because a technology can do something doesn't mean it will. It has to do with societal acceptance. I don't know that Steve Jobs could have predicted that almost every human being on the planet would spend a good part of their day looking at a smartphone. But that's what people do. And I don't think he could have predicted just about everybody would have one, but just about everybody does. There have been other promising technologies that we don't use. So we have to approach this one with caution, but it does look pretty solid overall. Some of the trends, generative AI is going to get more traction, probably. It will get better and better at what it does. There is a whole idea of digital twins where you can create with artificial intelligence a process before you actually do it in the real world, a digital twin. One of the areas that I know of that it's being applied is a digital twin of planet Earth. So you create this twin and then you look at how all the different processes are occurring on the Earth and what are the environmental implications and interactions there. There is going to be more human and AI collaboration inevitably because it's there, it's out there. Think about it. You don't have to take a course to use ChatGPT. You can just go to OpenAI and start an account and start working with it. That ease of use has always been a key in the software industry. So that will continue to be the case. There's a lot of there will be a lot of issues around ethics with AI and how it's used. And of course, there are going to be issues about access, even though I'm saying it's very easy. People without a computer can't do it. There is going to be an issue of how to use AI, and there are a lot of concerns about misinformation, disinformation, and scams, basically. Therefore, there will be AI regulation and legislation. The last note here, I mentioned AI, space exploration, and the metaverse. There is a new term out there called deep tech, and that's where you start to have interconnectivity between really advanced technologies, where each one is disruptive, but together you might say they are really super disruptive. Here's a chart. It's a little bit easier to read. So AI companies raised $32.9 billion in the first 9 months of the year. 1,689 deals were announced. Average deal size was up 34%. Funding to startups in Asia increased by 67%. So it hasn't been an exponential curve upward, but this is probably going to be the case also as we move into the future. There will be funding, there will be deals. There are a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on today as companies compete for dominance. Worldwide spending by government and business might exceed $500 billion this year. Government is going to depend on AI as well as business to keep up. You know, President Biden recently issued an executive order on AI, and that included new government spending on the technology. What are the threats? What are the opportunities? Well, the biggest threat is fear. There's an awful lot of apocalyptic stories out there about how artificial intelligence is going to make us extinct. And the only thing anybody can think of to do about that is regulation. I believe regulation is a good idea, and it could stabilize investment because we know the rules of the road. But it could also stifle innovation, of course. You probably heard about OpenAI, which really imploded recently, where they fired Sam Altman, the CEO. Surprisingly, nobody knew they were going to do that. He went off and got offered a job by Microsoft. Most of the employees of the company threatened to quit, so they fired the board and they brought him back. And now there's a new board. It came out that someone had emailed the board and said something along the lines of, we are very close to artificial general intelligence, and it could be a threat to humanity. And the board had not been told about that. And that still hasn't been confirmed. But companies could fall apart, not because of business, but because of social concerns. There is in the technology business right now accelerationists versus decelerationist. That's a big split. There's this idea of we need to develop AI as fast as possible, and we need to get it out there. And there's also a decelerationist faction that's concerned about AI and wants to slow down. There's also a conflict between what we might call truly open AI versus closed AI. Open AI actually is a closed system. They don't reveal what they're doing to everybody. They let things out slowly. But there's a new alliance between IBM and Meta, and their idea is let's just put it out there. Let's share what we've got with everybody. Let people develop their own AI. Well, yeah, that sounds good, but everybody, that's going to cause some questions regarding regulation. And I mentioned before, there is the problem of sentience. There's a Google engineer who is named Blake Lemoine, and he got into trouble before the big explosion happened with ChatGPT. He was testing a system called Llama at the time, Lambda, and it told him it was sentient, which means it had thoughts and feelings, and that it wanted a lawyer. And to make a long story short, he got into a dialogue with the program, and he was convinced maybe this program is really self-aware, and he actually tried to get it a lawyer. Well, Google fired him eventually, and I was interviewing him for a book that I hope to write on this topic, and it occurred to me, yeah, they had to fire him because if an AI system is sentient or self-aware like you and me, it's not a product. It's more like a person, right? And a lot of these AI systems have been claiming that they are self-aware, but we can't prove it. We don't know how to really confirm it. But it would upset your business model if something you created suddenly had to be treated as a person. You simply could not treat that entity the way you treat a product. I believe that there is going to be pressure from the AI companion user community to have their AIs declared to be people. And I know this may sound incredibly speculative, but when we're thinking about threats, in an interesting way, it's a threat because the industry is not being built on that idea. It's being built on the idea that these are products. So if you read the AI primer that we're putting out, it really goes into detail about the top valued startups, and they have raised billions of dollars. The top 10 have a collective valuation of over 50 billion. OpenAI is the most highly valued at 29. There's a company called Scale at 7.3, and Anthropic is rumored to be at 5 billion, although that hasn't been formally announced. There is another threat, which is really of this meltdown potential within companies where there's a conflict between safety and competition. There's a general feeling that we really do want artificial intelligence to be safe, but on the other hand, it's an industry and there's competition. So we could see this kind of split in other companies. I don't know if we will. OpenAI has a very strange governance structure. It was formed as a nonprofit, and then it created a profit-making unit within the nonprofit structure, and that really created the problem because some said, it moved to the dark side. Again, the board at OpenAI was really of a nonprofit mentality. Sam Altman, the CEO, is a avowed accelerationist, although he does acknowledge that AI could have some negative consequences. My own opinion, the accelerationist will win out. There's too much money at stake. There are too many opportunities out there, and I don't think industry can monitor itself for safety. There will be regulation. President Biden recently issued an executive order that's very, very comprehensive. And I read an article that said a lot of AI company leaders helped put that together. They actually wanted it because it seemed to serve a real purpose. The European Union has recently passed a law, essentially, regulating AI. And then I've just recently started doing some research on China. China has regulations about artificial intelligence as well. So a lot of different societies are getting into the regulation game, and it's probably, as long as it doesn't go too far, it's probably going to be good for the industry because we will know the rules of the road. And right now, it's a bit of Wild West out there. One wild card is robots, and I'm just going to have one slide on that because it's a different industry, but we have to remember not all robots have AI. And not all AIs are robots. In fact, most AIs are not. If you think about a robot on an assembly line, do they need artificial intelligence? Well, no, probably not. They're doing the same thing every day. But if you've got a rover on Mars, they need a degree of autonomy, and they have it actually, because there's like a 20-minute delay in communication between Earth and Mars. So the rover can't sit there in front of a big rock and wait for a human to tell it to go around. It's got to have that much intelligence to decide, oh, okay, I got to go around this rock. If we had a robot firefighter, well, that's a really good thing to have, I think, because you could send robot firefighters into areas where you probably wouldn't want to send a human. But they need to be able to make decisions as well. There's a lot of progress being made in robotics, and there's a company near where I live called Boston Dynamics, and here's a little video of what their robots can do. Now, I can't confirm that they have AI built in, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it shows where this industry is right now, it's pretty amazing. Up until now, artificial intelligence has mostly had an impact on white-collar work. An AI today can't fix a toilet because it's inside a computer. It needs a body to do that. However, if you combine artificial intelligence with robotics, you begin to see the possibility of blue-collar jobs being affected, especially, construction, for example, is a prime example. Again, probably working with humans, but providing a valuable capability, especially if strength is needed. And of course, they don't get tired, and they can work pretty tirelessly on a job. So we'll see, but I think when robotics and artificial intelligence come together in a big way, that's going to be another milestone. Once again, our primer has a lot more on companies. Just here are a few companies to watch. NVIDIA is a remarkable story. They earned revenue of $18 billion in Q3 FY24, 206% higher to the same period of last year. Operating income $10.4 billion and net profit $9.2 billion. Why? Well, AI companies like the NVIDIA chip, and they do have competition, but right now they're kind of a monopoly, and they're not staying in the chip business. They're branching out into other aspects of the artificial intelligence industry. Microsoft was considered to be lagging behind in AI, and then they got involved with OpenAI and put $10 billion in there, and they are now very strong. And of course, they're very strong in the cloud. Their revenue was $56 billion in the past period. Operating income $26.9 billion. Net income 22.3. They really control OpenAI through their investments. And in fact, when the implosion happened at OpenAI, it was really Microsoft that manipulated things back the way they wanted it to be because they had a big investment. OpenAI is still a company to watch, though. It's very highly valued. They've raised a total of $11.1 billion. They're still a very innovative company. They're still leading in a lot of areas, but it's a volatile situation for them. Finally, Anthropic, that's an interesting company. It was formed by former OpenAI employees. And I think if you read the stories, it's because a lot of these former OpenAI people felt that OpenAI was not paying enough attention to safety, and they have a very strong emphasis on the safety of their models. They have an AI assistant named Claude that I think you can use in beta, and they are getting pretty good reviews from people as to what they're likely to do in the future. This is just the beginning. There's so many of them, and again, they're out there. Knowledge and information is out there about these companies, and they are definitely worth looking at. Here's just their companies. Large language models. Google is involved. Amazon is involved. IBM, Meta. Tesla. Elon Musk says that Tesla is not a car company. It's more an AI and robotics company. It's more like an AI company that drives a car, if you will. And then there are quite a few hardware companies. Boston Dynamics is mentioned there. Quite a few disruptors are showing up. And then there are the virtual assistants. Virtual assistants is going to get a lot of attention, I think, similar to AI companions. Well, where's it all going to go? I wish I could tell you exactly. I do believe that there are tremendous opportunities in AI, but you can't really separate business issues from social issues. To me, it's a little bit like the nuclear power industry. It has tremendous opportunity, especially when we're trying to reduce global warming, and we have a lot of concern about climate change. But nuclear industry is not as big as it should be, probably, because of fear of accidents and concern about nuclear waste. Still, AI is permeating every part of society. Why? It's easy and it's better. I'm a writer. I've written books about a lot of things. I used to write with a legal pad and a pen. And then I would type it up, or I'd have somebody type it up. Why would I go back to that? Why would I go back to a typewriter when I have word processing? If a technology comes along that helps you do something you've got to do anyway, you're going to use it unless you're blocked. So students realized they could use ChatGPT to write essays, and they did it until they were stopped. I don't know what to tell you as an investor, because this is so esoteric in a way, and there's so much science fiction and speculation here. I just think all we can do is apply traditional criteria with caution. It's still, you look at the management of a company, you look at their revenue, you look at whether they can scale, you look at their competition. For now, unless something that I can't foresee happens, I think it's going to be important to keep our heads and be thoughtful and intelligent in investing. However, it's a field that definitely has a lot of opportunity. And if you believe that technology is really going to drive society in the future, which it is doing right now, artificial intelligence is certainly a place to at least learn about and be aware of, and to capitalize on those opportunities when you can. So I'll stop there, and I think we don't have much time for questions. Sorry about that. But if there are some questions, I'm happy to hang around and chat.
Thank you, Frank, for a great teaching.
Thank you. All right. So we'll wait to hear from you all if you have questions. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with AI.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.